And this is the Frank Woodard Environmental Engineering Laboratory. And Frank Woodard was also affiliated with UMaine. In fact, he was a faculty member here years ago. And one of his former grad students, Al Curran, they formed Woodard & Curran. It is the largest homegrown consulting civil engineering firm in the state of Maine. And they specialize in environmental engineering. And they employ, at this point, well over 1,000 people at multiple locations around the country. In this lab, you learn about, at the bench scale, what environmental engineering is about. We're the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, and that reinforces the significance of the environmental side of things. With me here today, I have Professor Jean Mcrae, and she's been with us for 22 years, right? She came 1 year after me, and you know, Jean teaches a lot of both our required class and a lot of our electives in environmental engineering, and she can really tell you what environmental engineering is about, the sorts of things you do in the lab in here if you take classes with the lab, of which we have several. Jean.
Hi. Well, it's great to be with you today. I'm Jean Macrae, and I am very happy to introduce environmental engineering to you. Environmental is the side of civil engineering that deals with mostly the aspects of engineering that keep us safe, really. We're responsible for maintaining the safety and cleanliness of the air, land, and water. And we provide safe drinking water, we treat wastewater, we clean up contaminated sites. So it's really on the edge of engineering and public health as a profession. It's a really great thing to do. There's loads of excellent work to be done in environmental engineering, which is why Woodard & Curran is such an important company in the state and nationally. And in our program, we have several different aspects of environmental engineering that we can cover. The Introduction to Environmental Engineering gives you a little flavor of everything. That's a class that's taken in the third year, and everybody takes it. After that, we take a water treatment class as an elective, wastewater treatment. By water treatment, I mean drinking water, so what comes into your home, and wastewater is the stuff that leaves your home. Solid waste management is the removal of obviously solid waste from your home, and air pollution are some additional areas that we can look at. And pollutant fate and transport is another important aspect. So once a pollutant gets out into the environment, it will move from one place to another. So if it came out in the water, it can wind up in the air. If it came out in the air, it could end up in the soil, and it can cycle through the system. This lab, the Woodard lab, is the teaching lab where we do upper level elective courses. The required environmental engineering class doesn't have a lab associated with it, primarily because we spend a lot of time working on the fundamentals and learning how to model environmental systems. When you get into the upper level classes, we can move into the lab and start to do analyses, measure contaminants in water, see the concentrations of biochemical oxygen demand and other forms of pollution in the lab. And we can also work on methods of treating water as well. So for example, over here, this instrument is used to do tests on water samples. So in water treatment tests, you could try out several different concentrations of a chemical used to remove contaminants from the water, for example. So this lab, it gets used for a variety of different upper level classes as well as graduate level classes. This semester it's kind of quiet in here because of COVID and not having quite as many aspects in person, but we have been filming a lot of labs in this space over the course of the last semester to get them out to the students. And it looks like we have a special guest here.
Well, I started this off, Gene, so I'm not...
Our special guest, I guess, is done with us. So that's Dean Humphrey. I guess you've already met him. As the rest of the lab here, so we really have things in two sides. Sometimes graduate students do some research in this side of the lab, as well as over there. We have hoods that are available for volatile types of contaminants, and to make sure that if something is stinky, we can keep it contained. That makes us good neighbors. And if students are working on individual projects, there's plenty of space for them as well as the classes that are taking place. I can talk a little bit about the research that happens here that our graduates do. We have graduate students who work on the chemical aspects of environmental engineering, so that could be water treatment using chemical methods. It could be treatment of hazardous wastes, soil remediation, that sort of stuff. Our newest faculty member is Professor Honor Apple, and he does some really exciting work using nanoparticles. Nanoparticles are, so there's big particles, there's small particles, there's really small particles, and there's super small particles. He works on the super small particles, and they're extra cool because they have special properties just because they're almost all edge as opposed to any inside, and that allows them to do some special chemical activities. So he's an expert on that field. And my area of expertise is to look at the microbial side of things, and we use the power of microbes to break down pollutants and to convert materials into more useful materials in a lot of cases. So I'm into resource recovery as well as degradation of pollutants.
I think this is Eliza, one of Jean's grad students, and she's going to explain some of the stuff she's doing.
So this is my experiment setup. I have a couple different experiments going on, and basically I am studying this particular adsorbent, which is something that can remove a pollutant from a water. I'm studying how this particular sorbent removes phosphate from, it will be used for removing phosphate from salmon aquaculture facilities. So they want to know some stuff about this sorbent so they can see how useful it'll be in the industry. And so this test I have going on here is called a batch test. And it basically, I have some sorbent in all these samples, and it removes the phosphate that's in there. And then I take them off here, test them for the phosphate concentration, and that gives us quite a bit of information. And in this test, this is a column setup. And in this is more realistic to how it's going to be run in the industry. So this is a stock solution of about 20 milligrams per liter. And it's being run through this peristaltic pump, through this, and there's about 1.5 grams of sorbent in there. You can kind of see it. So the water gets pushed up through here in an upflow, this is an upflow system, and it comes out here. So every once in a while, I take samples from this, and you can see it's coming through. I take samples from here, and then test those for the phosphate concentration to see how that's going. So I just do that basically by getting one of these little falcon tubes, and then taking about 5 milliliters of this, and I put this back so it'll keep catching that. And I use a pipette, a volumetric pipette like this. This is 1,000 microliters, so 1 milliliter. And I take a tip, one of the clean ones, and I actually have 2 samples ready here. This is the first one, so then I just pipette 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 milliliters in there, and then we just cover it up with one of these little parafilm things. These are pretty cool. You just take this off, take the little plastic off, and this is sort of like stretchy tape, and then you just put it right over this, and then we can test it. And this just keeps it from evaporating, so it'll stay 5 milliliters. So that's basically it. So I do that same sort of thing for both of these tests, and I'm able to get information about how well the sorbent works for different settings of phosphate removal.
Nice. So Eliza's work is really important for the growing salmon aquaculture industry in the state, and she's hoping that this sorbent can be used after she collects all the phosphate from the fish poop. That's going to be used as a slow-release fertilizer so that the phosphorus doesn't wind up in the ocean but can be used on land for agriculture.